We light our chalice flame today. As chalice flames are lit in our brother and sister congregations across the world, and we will hear words adapted by those from Howard Thurman. A candle is a small thing, but one candle can light another. And as it gives its flame to the other, see how its own light increases. Welcome. Welcome to our meeting house today. I'm speaking from the closed meeting house in Sevenoaks, closed at this time of coronavirus. We're at a time of holidays. We're in August, a time of holidays for some. Confused and different this year, of course, for many. A time of happiness, but also a time of uncertainty, of challenge. We all try to run back at times to do things the way we used to do them, but we find we're not always in control of that, particularly now. If finding time for a break at all, it's probably closer to home, a staycation maybe. But many, of course, are hoping to be working at this time, not holidaying, hoping to get back to find a job perhaps, to find the support they need for family, for the future. We can't do it all ourselves. We can look out for one another. We try to make the best opportunities. We try to give support. But we need to take time to stop, to listen to that still, small voice within. A time like now, to help us along our path. This time and this space is yours. I bid you welcome. Our first reading is by the Reverend Lynn Ungar. This is from a collection, What We Share, and this piece is titled Boundaries. The universe does not revolve around you. The stars and planets spinning through this ballroom of space dance with one another, quite outside your small life. You cannot hold gravity, or seasons, even air and water inevitably evade your grasp. Why not then let go? You could move through time like a shark through water, neither restless nor ceasing, absorbed in and absorbing the native element. Why pretend you can do otherwise? The world comes in at every pore, mixes in your blood before breath releases you into the world again. Did you think the fragile boundary of your skin could build a wall? Listen. Every molecule is humming its particular pitch. Of course, you are a symphony. Whose tune do you think the planets are singing as they dance? The words of the Reverend Lynn Ungar. Let us come together in a time of prayer. Spirit of all lives, you hold in your heart and your hands all that is good and just as you wait for us to grab and take hold. May we know when to reach, when to release, when to pray, or when simply to stand still to listen for that small voice inside. May we trust that what we hear is not just our imaginations, and help us to accept Spirit of life, guide us this day as we open the path before us, with you as our beacon, our light, our star whose glow we follow. Eternal Spirit, Mother, Father, ever present if only we have eyes to see. We stand in awe in the presence of the universe. In its proper time, may the mystery unfurl before us. Though fettered by our material desires, may the depths of the Spirit uphold and guide us. May the great gifts of the earth sustain us. May the universe forgive our faults and our follies, and may we in equal measure be forgiving. May we ever turn our eyes toward the light to dispel the darkness which would engulf us. We give thanks for the bounty of the universe, which abounds with power and glory beyond our greatest imaginings. If you wish to, I welcome you to join me in the last prayer, following the words on your screen. Eternal Spirit, may we be led from death to life, from falsehood to truth. May we be led from despair to hope, from fear to trust. May we be led from hate to love, from war to peace. Let peace fill our hearts, our world, our universe. Amen. Our second reading is by the Unitarian Universalist minister, the Reverend Robert Walsh. Now, I met Robert a few years ago now when he took a sabbatical at Horsham Unitarian Church, and he was a lovely man. This is from his book, Stone Blessings, and this is a piece called Tucked In. On a quiet suburban street on a Sunday evening, just as it was getting dark, I saw a car pull into a driveway, and then the silhouette of a man walking from the car to the front of the house, carrying a sleeping child. The child's head lay on the man's shoulder, his arms and legs dangling like the limbs of a puppet. They went in the door, and my imagination filled in the rest of the story. I imagined that the family had been on a day trip in the car. During the warm summer day, the boy had run, played, jumped, shouted, eaten. On the way home, he'd fallen asleep in the back seat. My mind went back 25 years to a time when I was that dad, driving home from a picnic and a hike in the mountains, singing songs in the car, at least seeing the family neighbourhood in the car lights, pulling into our driveway and finding one or more of the kids sleeping so soundly that even carrying them in and dressing them for bed did not disturb their slumber. And then my mind went back 50 years to when I was that boy. And I remembered how I felt in the darkening back seat with my parents up front. I could put my head down and doze off, trusting that nothing would happen. And I would wake up in bed thinking, how did I get here? The last thing I remember is being in the back seat of the car. And I realised that my parents had carried me from the car, put me to bed, tucked me in. The early universalists believed that the ultimate fate of a human being was like that. No matter how rough the trip might have been or how badly you might have behaved, at the end of your life, you would come home and it would be a place of trust, safety and love. 2 centuries ago, many people were amazed to hear this message because most churches told them they were more likely to face punishment for all their failings. So is the ultimate truth that our souls will be taken care of in the way that a loving parent takes care of a child? I don't know. Certainly much of life is not like that. I was lucky. Many children do not have happy homecomings. I have no answers for ultimate questions, but I do have some partial truths that I'm quite sure of. Here's one. There is love in this world. There is trust. There are places of safety where a person can lay down her or his head for a while. The world is not entirely so, but I am absolutely certain that the world is partially a place of love. And wherever that love comes from, it's manifested in the world by human beings. We are the agents of that love. The words of Robert Walsh. Our hymn today, picking up on Ungar's connection to the universe, is written by Roger Mason and David Dawson. Based on the Tao Te Ching, this hymn reminds us of our connections to all, of the dissolution of the boundaries between us if we put our minds to it. It's number 142 in the Purple Book, if you have one, but the words will be on the screen. Shining through the universe. Our service today and this reflection is called Perfect Strangers. There are reasons for that, but it was not the only option running through my head. The kindness of strangers was another. Doing good for no good reason was yet another, as was The Rock Star and My Daughter. Now, the latter one is the title that perhaps I should have used because it would have drawn the crowd, with an expectation of something very, very different. The Rock Star and My Daughter. What is he talking about? Now, the story comes from a few years back, but it's one that's still worth telling. It began when our youngest daughter announced that there was to be a talent show at her school. Everyone in her year was to take part, and they all had to think of something to say, to sing, to dance, to perform in some way. And there was much thought going on. What did she want to do? And then that little voice spoke. "Daddy, I've decided what I want to do for the talent show. I want to sing Nightmare." Now, I would be delighted if you all knew the song, but I suspect the numbers that do will be limited. Nightmare was a hit for the band Gillan in the early 1980s. It's a time when I was a little younger than I am now, and I was discovering the delights of long hair, loud guitars, and big voice vocals. And Gillan, the band, were led appropriately by Ian Gillan, formerly, and now once more, the singer with Deep Purple. Now, maybe there is some greater recognition now. A lot more have probably heard of Deep Purple. But the song Matilda was interested in was Nightmare, which is a fantastic heavy rock pop song, but perhaps not so well known. But anyway, when this was happening a couple of years ago, it was really not an obvious first choice for a 9-year-old's talent show. It's a song that I've had in my head for nearly 40 years now, and I do sing it far too often. And this was something that had obviously been noted. Now, I had no problem with her choice of song, but I did have a concern on how on earth we were going to get a backing track for her to sing to. We'd need an instrumental version of the song, a karaoke version perhaps. Now, the thing with karaoke versions of songs is that they tend to be for songs that everybody knows and everybody sings anyway. The track Nightmare from 40 years ago was not a karaoke song well known. I trawled the never-ending supply of wonder on the internet, but to no avail. The song was perhaps a little too obscure for this. What was I to do? We had just over a week until the show. Life was busy, as it always is, running around from here to there, coping with 1,001 other things, home, work, life issues. How on earth was I going to be able to get this sorted? And that mini panic started to brew. No chance, no time, failed parent. In desperation, I searched the website of Ian Gillan himself, and I sent him a note asking him for help. This sense of helplessness, of needing to be in total control, yet knowing you can't be. The piece from Lynn Ungar that we heard earlier draws on this so well. A slow dawning realization that comes to us all, recognizing our intimate connections to the universe. We are part of something so much bigger. Yet our occasional belief that we're able to control it all is shattered when we put some thought to it. As Lynn says, you cannot hold gravity or seasons, even air and water inevitably escape your grasp. Why not then? Let go. We need something else. We need something to calm and relieve the pressure, to move through time, neither restless nor ceasing. And that relief comes in so many ways. Lynn Ungar refers to the recognition and reflection that we are connected to something so much greater. In those wonderful words, with each molecule humming, we are a symphony. Yet we're also part of the greater symphony of the universe, playing our own mutually dependent parts in life. Now, some call that connection to everything God. Some just an awesome connection to life. Others still, the universe itself. How you describe that realization and that connection is not the issue. Just recognizing it is the first step. Finding that connection. Finding peace. Now, I'm sure in the midst of time, Ian Gillan has been referred to as a rock god, which sort of plays into our story, doesn't it? He also recorded an album called Mr. Universe, which plays into Lynn Ungar's piece. But interestingly, and as some of you may know, interestingly, he actually he played the role of Jesus Christ in the very first Jesus Christ Superstar soundtrack, the one that topped the charts for so long in the early 1970s. Fantastic voice. But to get back to that earlier story, my email to Ian Gillan had asked whether he was aware of any vocal-free version of this song, Nightmare. I explained the circumstances, I acknowledged it was a little unusual, but was clear I could think of no other way to do this now. I expected perhaps an acknowledgement. Maybe at most confirmation that there were no instrumental versions out there. There was even a sneaky hope, a hope against hope, that someone in the organisation might be able to explain to me how I could take the vocals off the recorded version that I had. All I really knew was that Ian wasn't even in the UK at this point. He was touring with Deep Purple in Mexico as part of a gruelling and no doubt hectic non-stop circuit of coach, hotel, stage, onwards, another night, another night, another night. He clearly wasn't going to be in a position to help personally, but maybe whoever runs the website was going to take pity on me. I doubted whether really, in the midst of my busyness, of Ian Gillan's busyness, of general stuff in the air busyness, this obscure and unlikely request for a 9-year-old to have a karaoke version of a metal song from the early 1980s was going to get the attention that something more important might actually warrant. Yet that care and attention we seek, we crave, is part of the loving world we surely want to see for all. Our second reading, Robert Walsh's reflection on the care a parent places on a child, the carrying of a child to bed when they fall asleep on the back seat on the journey home, of the care and unflinching attention we place as parents on our children, to do our best to keep them safe, to tuck them in safely at night. And Robert went on to describe this notion of safety, of returning to the warm space, as, in the view of the Universalists, the extremely positive religious movement that believed in the ultimate goodness of God and a God of love, not hate, not of division. Yet this is a hard message to make stick. A God of love would not perhaps preside over a world where so much hatred, division and distrust can tear people apart. Yet we know in our hearts, as Unitarians and as others, that the ultimate truth in this world, whether we are believer, agnostic, atheist, the ultimate truth is that the world is more likely to be a better place, a place of love, safety and care, if people, not God, but if people take the time and effort to be kind, to avoid conflict, to engage, to trust and show yourself worthy of trust. To reveal God is not to call upon some supernatural being into existence. To reveal God, to bring a divine presence into the world, is instead to reveal goodness. To act in a loving and a caring way, to show kindness, to be kind, to give without expectation of receipt. Now, this has been the theme of religious thought and development for centuries. Most religions at their heart have this notion of compassion and of kindness. It all kicks off with Confucius around 2,500 years ago, when he formulated the golden rule. Never do to others what you would not like them to do to you. In effect, never place yourself above or separate from others, from their lives, from their feelings, from their needs. It turns our natural sense of self-worth on its head. Instead of being motivated in our lives by self-interest, a truly humane person, a truly human person, we consistently orientate instead toward others. And this notion of care and compassion as a driving force in a better world has continued. The golden thread shining through the universe and time, as we heard in our hymn earlier. In Judaism, Buddhism, Christianity, Islam, the Upanishads, Socratic discourse, the idea of treating others with kindness is the golden thread. Our lives become better. Our sense of self-worth, of purpose, of community, and as loving humans can only be fully realised once we start to recognise the importance of a shared world, of a world where we treat others with care, our neighbours, whether known or unknown. And this is seen in so many religions because it is, in the phrase used by Robert Walsh, the ultimate truth. It features in religion because religions seek, or should be seeking, a code by which people might live in love and harmony, to make the world a better place. It was the Dalai Lama who once said, "Whether a person is a religious believer does not matter much. Far more important is that they be a good human being. Far more important is that they be a good human being." And this is the message we might hear when we find ourselves in the eye of the storm. It's the message we might reflect upon when we remember that goodness comes from human action. So what of this mysterious message to our rock star friend? Well, within a couple of hours of sending it, I got a reply from Ian's PA saying that they would look into it for us. The quote from Ian himself, who the email had been relayed to, was, "Brilliant. Tell the vicar we're looking into it today. Even though we're in Mexico, such a request can't be ignored." Now, over the next few days, a series of emails started to come through, confirming that there really wasn't anything available. They'd looked everywhere, and that was the end of that, I thought. However, rather than leave it there, he contacted a friend in the UK, and asked him to record a new instrumental version for us to use. And then I got an email from a man called Steve Morris, musician, friend of Ian's. What key would we like Nightmare to be played in? When do we need it? Would a couple of CDs be quite helpful? Within 2 days, it was with us, a fully re-recorded version of the song. This wasn't a plinky-plonky quick scrub-through. This was a full drums, bass, guitars, keyboards. It's as good, perhaps a little better actually, than the original. And Matilda was delighted. And I was astonished. And 3 complete strangers had put themselves out in various places across the world to act with kindness and put a smile on a child's face. An unknown neighbour. A staggering example to set, and something for which I am so very, very grateful. Our world is a busy one, and one where we can sometimes be so overwhelmed by the complexity and demands that we fail to achieve or even spot the possibilities we have to bring a better world into focus, to play our part in the symphony of all. Yet we're reminded instead we can be through the deeds of others. We've heard how we might consider the true bringers of peace and well-being as humanity itself. It's the people that do it, not some external thing, but people. By stopping and following that still small voice within us all, we might remember and strive to bring kindness and compassion to our world. We have it within ourselves. It is the kindness of strangers that can reignite our spark to do good. Success in the school talent show is not something I could guarantee. However, in the build-up to that, the example that had been set on how to live a good life and to be kind was worth 100 talent show prizes. The kindness of perfect strangers. Let us come together now in a time of stillness and quiet together. As we settle our bodies, perhaps closing our eyes, focusing on our breath. I shall speak some words and strike the singing bowl as we come together in stillness and quiet together. That stillness will be broken by music to continue our reflections. As we settle our bodies, with words from Paul Tillich. Without the abundance of the heart, nothing great can happen. Some closing words. Eternal Spirit, we have gathered together for ourselves, for each other. May the connection we have found in this way today keep us connected. May the stillness we have found bring us peace. May our lives be filled with light to bring hope to the world in our thoughts, our words, and our deeds.